Okay, all right, let's get started. Hello everyone, my name is Dan Cauchy. I'm the Executive Director for Automotive Grade Linux, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you here in Tokyo. It's so good to be back, post-COVID, no restrictions and mostly no masks. It's really nice to be here, and I hope we have a very productive week here talking about automotive grade Linux and automotive software. First of all, I'd like to thank our big thank you to our gold sponsor, Renesas. So without their support, these kinds of events would not be possible. So we really a big thank you to Renesas for helping us with the sponsorship of this event. A couple things I need to get out of the way legally. First of all, this meeting this week is subject to the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation. Every member needs to be familiar with this policy. You must not discuss business strategy and collude and talk about pricing and things like that. The antitrust policy can be found on our website. And in addition to that, this meeting is also subject to the Linux Foundation Code of Conduct. If you have any issue, you can report it to any of the Linux Foundation staff immediately. Our Code of Conduct is listed on our website. Okay, with those two things out of the way, I want to thank the AGL Advisory Board. We had a very productive meeting yesterday, and I'm going to talk about some of the things we discussed and some of the future directions of AGL and UCB. But of course, we had a little bit of fun last night. we had a nice AGL board dinner at Naraman Teppanyaki. And I want to talk about a little bit about AGL statistics. So 100% of keynote speakers were the last to drink the very last bottle of wine last night at dinner. And then 100% of keynote speakers were the very last ones to have really good whiskey after the dinner. So if the keynote speakers seem a little tired today, this may be why. But the good news is, the most important statistic is about 90% of the discussion was about AGL and automotive and the future of AGL and how do we get to the next level. And so these kinds of hallway track discussions are very important, and so we're really glad to be able to be back in person and have those meaningful discussions in person. I'm really happy to report that despite COVID, despite the economy, despite all of the inflation, AGL is actually doing quite good. And in fact, we're really excited about some of the things I'm going to talk about today, like SDV, and some of the other keynote speakers are going to talk about as well. But AGL is really doing well. We continue to innovate, we continue to add new features, and we're going to talk about that throughout this week. We've had strong membership growth in the past few years, despite COVID and all that. We've added huge companies like AWS, SoftBank, Marelli, Red Hat, Yazaki, on and on. We've added several new members that are actually quite large companies, influential companies, and specifically AWS has been really helpful in helping us with our software-defined vehicle and our virtualization and our cloud strategy. And so we really want to thank them for helping us advance AGL to the next level. We have 10 automotive manufacturers supporting the project, and I like to show this chart because this is super important. This is what differentiates AGL from some of the other projects. You hear about some of the other, maybe some other organizations trying to start projects and everything, but they really don't have the support of the OEMs like AGL does. And so this is a big differentiating factor, and we should not lose sight of this, because the OEMs basically drive the roadmap of the industry. And so having the support of these 10 OEMs is critical. And if you count the cars that are manufactured by these 10 OEMs, it's approximately half the vehicles in the world that are being produced every day. And so very, very important to not lose sight of the fact that AGL enjoys the support of all these companies. Another important thing to remember is we've always said from the beginning that AGL will support all of the functions in the cockpit and the vehicle. And so we continue to strive towards that, and we continue to add new features, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of some of the things that the advisory board has decided that we should work on in the future. I showed this chart last time, but I want to show it again because I want to talk about a little bit of a different thing. So if you look at the market share, this is a chart by IHS Markit. And it shows that Linux, generic Linux, the blue, light blue, is going down. That's because it's being replaced with AGL over time. And you can see that the green is Android Automotive with official Google support. And you can see that, they're kind of catching up a little bit. I think that's okay. I mean, if AGL, ends up with, 50% market share, I think we'll all be quite happy with that. But the reason I wanted to show this chart again is, whenever I show this chart, people ask me, why choose AGL or Linux or open source software over Android and other solutions, right? People always ask this. And it's a fair question because Android is quite good. Right? Android is quite successful in mobile phones. It's gaining a lot of traction in the automotive market. But why choose AGL? Well, first of all, healthy competition is good for everyone, right? I think even our friends at Google would agree with this. But the real reason is some car manufacturers realize that owning the combined hardware-software solution and having control of their future destiny and their future roadmap, like the Apple model, some people call it, has many, many benefits. And they want to be in control of their own software, their own roadmap, and their own release schedule to align with the production schedules. And we've actually heard this in the industry where companies that have adopted Android are actually, some of them are not very happy. Because what's happening is Android releases get released and they get pushed to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer is being forced to take updates when they don't necessarily want to. And so, again, with AGL, you're in control of your own roadmap. So you decide when you want to update, and you can align that with your production schedules. Also, you want, some car manufacturers want to provide end-to-end services, right, from the cloud all the way to inside the vehicle to their customers. And if you don't own the software and you don't own the data, that's very difficult to do. And so with AGL, we don't collect data, we don't own data, we don't do any of that. So again, the manufacturer is in control of their own destiny. And finally, manufacturers don't want to become makers of metal boxes where someone else or another company provides all the technology inside. And so this is a critical point, right? If you look at the mobile phone industry, some very big companies went out of business, right? Nokia, BlackBerry, et cetera. And if the car manufacturers don't adopt this, the ownership of the software, they are in a risk of potentially becoming the next BlackBerry, becoming the next Nokia. Because you have to be in control of your own technology. And the software, as we know now, is becoming critical. It's becoming the #1 factor in building cars. And so it's not about building engines and brakes and steering wheels anymore. It's about the software and ADAS features and autonomous driving. And so if they're not in control of their own software destiny, they really risk their future, I believe. So this is why companies choose AGL. It's not a technology war between AGL and Android and other solutions. It's really about freedom of choice and freedom of ownership of the software. Let's talk about the software. So we've been doing 2 releases year after year since 2016. And the reason that's important is because companies rely on these releases. We announce a roadmap. We announce release dates. We mostly stick to them. So we've been doing 2 releases year after year. Optimistic Octopus is the latest release, which the release notes can be found on the website. And thanks to Walt Miner for choosing a very difficult name. Prickly Pike is planned for early August. And Quirky Quillback is planned for Q1 2024, which I believe will include a lot of features related to the CES demonstration that we're planning. But what's really cool about UCB is that it has really evolved over time. I stole this chart from Walt. But you know, we've never stood still with UCB. We went from Qt apps and we added Flutter and Web App Manager. We went from a not proprietary, but a home-built audio solution that we had built for AGL because there was really nothing available, and now we've moved to Pipewire. We went from SMAC, which was no longer being adopted by the industry, and we moved to SC Linux. My point is, we've always moved UCB, and we're always trying to adopt new, more standard technologies and bring them to the automotive industry. And we're going to continue this, and I'm going to talk about this in a couple slides about the future roadmap that we're planning. In terms of expert groups, we've had several expert groups that have been very active. They meet every week, 2 weeks, et cetera. They meet in person here at these events. But specifically, recently, and many of you know this, but we'd like to announce that we've merged the Container and Service Mesh Expert Group with the Virtualization Expert Group and renamed it the Software-Defined Vehicles Expert Group. And we're really, really excited about this because I think it's one of the most exciting areas in AGL. And we've seen already a lot of excitement in companies participating. The vision is to have an open source project supporting out-of-the-box solution for the whole cockpit. And we're going to do that by adopting solutions that we already have, like VirtIO, hypervisors, et cetera, and have support for IVI, cluster, HUD, telematics, et cetera. All the functions in the cockpit. And the expert group is being led by Jerry Tsao from Panasonic. So thank you very much, Jerry, for helping us lead this effort. And as I mentioned, we already have many, many members that are participating, including AWS, Volkswagen, ARM, Harman, et cetera. And so this is probably the most exciting area in AGL at this point. And Mr. Mizuyama-san will talk about it in his presentation as well. So why is SDV important? And how is it addressing some of the key software trends that we're seeing? Well, first of all, one of the big trends is that we're seeing a lot of powerful SoCs these days, multi-core SoCs, big core, little cores, lots of cores everywhere. And how do you utilize all those cores? Well, with an SDV solution, the idea is that you can consolidate multiple software functions on the same processor. And I know the industry's been talking about this for several years. In fact, we were talking about it maybe 8, 9 years ago. And we've been demonstrating these things. But finally, I think, if you talk to software leaders at car companies, they're finally starting to realize that this is doable and that this is the future. And so I think there will be a trend of adoption of this cockpit consolidation in the very near future. And we're going to see it in real vehicles in the very near future. And the other big trend is that software is extremely complex. AGL is over 100 million lines of code, and updating software like this is very difficult. And so with SDV and the ability to containerize and to separate functions, it makes it easier to upgrade things and to patch things. And so I believe that this is all part of the trend that we will be able to solve. Now, just to give you an idea, so every year, at the beginning of the year, the AGL Steering Committee supplies a bunch of desired features that, these are the things we may want to work on. And then there's a ranking process. Each steering committee member gets to have a vote, and we rank all of the features. And you can clearly see, this is the result of the latest steering committee voting, that SDV is number 1, 2, and 3, and then vehicle to cloud is number 4 on top of that, which is quite, related. And then the number 5 is a new reference hardware based on the Qualcomm SoC. I think a lot of people want to see that. And then you can see Flutter, V2C, V2C. The point is, SDV is clearly what people want to work on. And so we're going to work on it. And we had a lot of strategy discussions yesterday at the AGL board meeting. And what came out of that discussion, it's still very new, right? So I'm giving you this fresh from yesterday. we want to transition UCB to be an incubator of innovative new features. And we kind of call it like the potluck dinner model, where everyone can bring some kind of dish to dinner, but not everyone has to consume it. And the idea is that if you're a car company or a tier one, and you know AGL has feature A, B, C, D, E, you don't have to take A, B, C, D, E. You can build this platform using Yocto and recipes and choose the components that you want and maybe replace some with your own components that are maybe proprietary or maybe you feel are better or more mature, and that's fine. And so this concept of this potluck dinner model and having UCB be an innovative incubator is kind of like the direction that the advisory board wants to go. And so over time, the idea is that some of these incubating features can become production ready and then can be pulled by the tier ones to go into their products and their offerings. And so all of this will be, our goal at AGL is that what the board decided yesterday is we're going to produce some kind of document, a manifesto that describes this future vision, and it'll describe how we, SDV fits into this. And we're going to be publishing this in the coming months. No timeline yet since we just decided this yesterday, but stay tuned. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about AGL events. In January, we had CES. To be perfectly frank, it wasn't as well as attended as pre-COVID, but that was expected. But nonetheless, the attendance was quite good. We had Scott and the AGL demo. We had two green machine demos. One of them was there, and then we had this second one here. Very nice booth, actually. Oops, sorry. So we want to thank all of the participants, and I'm going to talk about 2024 in the coming slides and what we're planning there. We had the AGL AMM in Berlin. That was a big success, so we want to thank everyone that participated in that as well. We participated in Embedded World. We want to thank AVL, AWS, Igalia, and Panasonic for participating in our booth, and we're going to be doing Embedded World again next year. If you're interested in participating, stay tuned for details on that. And then just over 2 weeks ago, well, close to 2 weeks ago, no, exactly 2 weeks ago, we participated in the very first Embedded Open Source Summit in Prague. There were over 800 people, but they were all dedicated embedded engineers. So this was quite a good conference for technologists that are focusing on embedded technology and engineers that are really dedicated to that. And so we hope that Linux Foundation will do this again, but we also attached Automotive Linux Summit to this. And the whole event was a big success, and we had a lot of fun. And in fact, this was the AGL, the AGL team dinner in Prague at a beautiful restaurant. And the highlight was Dr. Y. They had these giant pork knuckles and pork shoulders, and Dr. Y ate everything. But the point is that we had a lot of fun. It was a great event, and we hope to do it again next year, and we hope that you'll be able to travel and participate. This week we have the AMM here, so we're glad to see everyone here. Just a quick note that OSS Europe, which is in Spain, we're not planning to participate at this event. So don't go for AGL reasons. You can go for OSS reasons, but we're not planning to participate in this event this year because we just have too many things going on. One event here in Japan that is very exciting is it's Edge Tech, but inside Edge Tech they've decided to add an automotive software expo. And you can see AGL is an association partner. And we're going to have a small booth there and a presence. And if your company is interested in participating, there's a discount for AGL members to have a booth if you want to participate in this. And the program is currently being built. And you can see that there will be a dedicated seminar room for the Automotive Software Expo. So if you need more information about this, just talk to me or Walt or any one of the Linux Foundation staff and we can get you more information. At the end of the year, we're going to have Automotive Linux Summit Japan, which the venue has been chosen. It'll be December 5th and 6th at the Ariake Conference Center, where we've had this event before, so you might be familiar with it. We hope to see you there as well. And then finally, CES, which will be in January. We procured a really nice booth this year, right next to Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, Volkswagen, Hyundai, right in the middle of the automotive folks. So 50 by 50 booth. This is the design. This will be the AGL demo. We will have a meeting room. The point I'm making is if you want to participate, we have the prospectus available on our website. The deadline is August 18th. So if your company would like to participate and have a presence at this event, please have a look at the prospectus here at the URL. And we're going to have limited availability. So if you want, for example, a platinum sponsorship, you should apply quickly because they're gonna probably sell out quickly. Every year we tend to fill the booth very quickly. So please submit your CFP deadline August 18th. So I've summarized all of the events on one chart here so that you can take a photo and have a full summary if you wish. And then I want to thank Walt Miner. So Walt Miner, congratulations. He's been promoted to Senior Director at Linux Foundation. So a hand of applause for Walt. Walt has been leading this project as the community manager for almost 10 years. I think it's his longest job ever. And he's been doing a great job, and we really want to thank him. And he clearly deserves this promotion. So we're really, really happy for Walt. Thank you, Walt. And also, I'd like to welcome a new community manager for Japan. This is a Linux Foundation community manager, Mr. Makoto Akai. Yeah, there you go. And he will be helping us in Japan coordinate meetups, member meetings, seminars, these kinds of things. So really to help the community be more active and organized here in Japan. So welcome. Yeah. And with that, we really, really are happy to be here this week and glad to see all of you here in attendance, and I hope you have a good AGL week. So thank you very much for attending.